Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And digital ID is rolling out. We need to stop it as a people. The UK needs to stand up. Let's get into it.
So, yes, from the BBC, new digital ID will be mandatory to work in the UK. And they just came out with this announcement.
I believe it was today
Yeah.
because I was seeing it all over X today. We are going to show Keir Starmer's speech. He's saying if you want to work in the UK, this is absolutely mandatory, yet it's voluntary. They're trying to play both sides of the coin here. This is not just happening in the UK, it's also happened in New Zealand. They're trying to roll it out in the EU. Canada is fully on board. Mark Carney just went over there today while they rolled out this digital ID. I would think Canada's going to be there in short order.
And you're forgetting a very important country, which is Mexico, where we're at right now, has already started their rollout of digital IDs as well.
I'm not quite as concerned about Mexico. Why don't you talk about the Mexican digital ID, which you actually print out yourself and laminate?
So they're gathering people's biometric data, which is the concerning part, especially because Mexico doesn't have the best track record regarding keeping information or storing their citizens' information. Lots of leaks, lots of hacks have happened in the past. But the way it works is you give them your biometric information, and then they'll email you in short order your digital ID, and then you have to print it out and laminate it if you want to.
Well, organized criminals within Mexico want to keep their identity secret. They are also not going to be on board with a digital currency because they want maximum freedom from their illicit monies and earnings. So I'm not quite as concerned about Mexico, but we'll see how it turns out in the rest of the West.
But yes, digital ID will be mandatory in order to work in the UK as part of plans to tackle illegal migration. Sir Keir Starmer said the new digital ID scheme would make it tougher to work in the UK illegally and offer countless benefits to citizens, while his senior minister, Darren Jones, said it could be the bedrock of the modern state. That sounds ominous. However, opposition parties argue the proposals will not stop people crossing the channel in small boats. Prime Minister set out his plans in a broader speech to a gathering of world leaders, in which he said it has been too easy for people to work illegally in the UK because the center left had been squeamish about saying things that were clearly true.
Okay, and this is absolute garbage. This is what we've been saying for years. We've been warning about a digital ID, digital currency, how this thing has to break down. First, they need digital ID before they bring in digital currency, and they'll bring in carbon credits, which people can buy and sell their carbon credits so richer people can travel and do what they want. After that, they'll have a full-fledged social credit score like China. In order to stop this domino effect, we need to stop digital ID. A couple of years ago, they tried to roll this out in Britain and there was massive backlash and nobody really adopted it. So we need that kind of pushback now in Britain so the rest of the countries kind of get the hint. I'm a little bit concerned because Britain's rolling this out on the back of we need to stop immigration. In no way, shape, or form are they trying to stop immigration. They're saying, well, we're going to stop one immigrant from coming in illegally and then we're going to let one in legally. If an immigrant comes in legally, they're going to be entitled to a digital ID and to work in that country. So I think this whole thing could fall apart in the UK. The issue is the United States. Donald Trump is actually trying to fight immigration and he is trying to clean up the elections, and people can see that. So people may be much more likely to cooperate in the US. I hope not. Wherever this is kind of rolled out, they need to resist it, whether it's a conservative government or a liberal government. There are already structures in place to fight illegal immigration and to verify people have the right to work in Britain.
So, yes, addressing the Global Progressive Action Conference in London, sounds horrible, attended by politicians including Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, Sir Keir said it was time to look ourselves in the mirror and recognize where we've allowed our parties to shy away from people's concerns.
And digital currency is rolling out in October within the EU, so this is all coming to a head. Like I said, they need digital ID before digital currency. They can't do it in the reverse order. It simply won't work. If they have a digital currency without a digital ID, that digital currency would have to offer more freedoms, and that's not something they want. They want it to be completely programmable.
Mm-hmm. Should we watch him make the actual announcement?
Yeah, this was highly laughable.
Well, and worrying, I would say as well.
Oh, one moment. Okay, let's start it over.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Today it's you can't work if you don't have a digital ID. Tomorrow it's we'll take your money or freeze your bank account if you say the wrong thing against the government. And that's the kind of control digital ID is going to give over the people of the UK and the world for every country that offers a digital ID. We need to again stop this, stand up. That's why this is the main story for today's broadcast.
And both on this and our other channel, we have talked about it and warned about the consequences for years. Yes. But apparently someone else that is warning against it, at least for now, is Nigel Farage. So should we listen to him?
This is going to be huge for Nigel. Once he gets in there, is he going to have the same stories or is he going to give some other excuse why we need it? As of right now, I do like his statement. And although I've kind of been moving away from Nigel Farage on this particular instant, which is very, very important because it lays the groundwork for everything else, I like where he comes down.
So the Prime Minister says we must have digital ID. That's the way we'll stop illegal immigration. Well, think about it. Germany has ID cards, strict ID and checks. It's made no difference at all in Germany, and nor will it here. All that digital ID will be is a means of controlling the population, of telling us what we can and can't do, of fining the innocent. And didn't we see it all when we had the pandemic, when you had to have vaccine ID to travel, to do various things? Did that stop the COVID pandemic spreading? Did it help? All it did was put cost and inconvenience on everybody else. I also worry about massive data banks being held by the government, being hacked by foreign governments, by private companies, by criminals. I do not see a single benefit to the government having digital ID other than them controlling what we do, what we spend, and where we go. And we, in Reform, are wholly opposed to it in every single way.
And the election is a long way off in the UK, but with statements like that, you can rest assured he is going to have a blowout whenever there is an election. Keir Starmer is looking to be replaced right now. His last final act is to secure the beginning of a digital ID before they replace him with another carbon clone of himself.
And especially with this worrying trend of immigration plus digital ID, the first place we thought we were going to see it was the US, that could be used as an excuse to start implementing digital ID from a Trump administration. But it seems like the UK took the idea and ran with it even more.
Well, the UK is saying they needed digital ID to fight immigration. Donald Trump doesn't seem to need any of that. He is able to actually take action and get rid of immigrants, which he kind of campaigned on, which the United States population is behind him with. The UK is doing none of that. What makes you think a digital ID is going to do anything different? A digital ID came into effect and it did nothing but give immigrants the right to work within Germany when Germany did it. New Zealand also did it. This is stage one of complete control for the government. They absolutely need a digital ID to fulfill their social credit score hopes and ideals.
And it's not like we haven't seen these sorts of pushes before, and there is at least one country where it has worked perfectly, and that is communist China, where they use digital IDs to first identify people, but then also give them a social credit score. What that means is whatever you do, the government gives you a score, and from there you get benefits or you get punished, depending on how good of a citizen you are, according to the government, not to any other measure or to anything else.
Well, and we have a clip coming out of China, so this was a little bit older, but they've had their social credit score system in effect for years now. So if you wonder what's going to happen, this is kind of what's going to happen.
Well, we do have a clip first from Eva Vlandingerbroek. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But she's great, and she has been fighting for Europe for the longest time now. She was involved in the farmers' protests as well in the Netherlands.
The digital identity is not just a passport that you will have on your iPhone in a digital form. It entails just about everything the government would like to know about you. And yesterday in the Dutch media, we saw a perfect example of what it could entail in the near future. We had the CEO of one of the largest Dutch banks say, why don't we start with a personal carbon credit?
Oh.
A carbon wallet, she called it, actually.
Yeah.
So right in line with the plans that the World Economic Forum.
And this being said, she is absolutely on the money here. This is their stand. If they can't get a digital ID in, their globalist dreams from the World Economic Forum and these other globalist politicians just won't work. So we have to fight now. If you let the digital ID get in, some things will pass, some things won't in the future, but slowly and over time, they will build an authoritarian control and net over their population.
People have for us. And she said it in a way that was particularly funny. She said, well, if everyone gets an individual personal carbon credit, why don't we make it so that rich people who, for example, want to go on holiday a little too often can buy personal carbon credit from other people who, for example, can't afford buying plane tickets or eating meat too often. So we can that way swap it out.
Oh, so if Bill Gates or Leonardo DiCaprio's carbon footprint is getting a bit too big, then some peasant living in his hovel up country somewhere can sell his, and he can't afford to go to Saint-Tropez, but he'll be able to sell his carbon allowance to Leonardo DiCaprio so Leonardo can park his yacht in Saint-Tropez for a couple of extra days.
Exactly right. That's it. So what will happen is the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer, and they're saying it openly as if it's not a controversial thing at all. It's neo-feudalism. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's completely right. This is going to make a two-tiered society, and this is not what we want. This is a power structure they're trying to build based upon carbon credits. In order to get that, they need digital currency and they need digital ID. Mark Carney from Canada, the current Prime Minister of Canada, was one of the architects of this scheme. Donald Trump is now pulling out of this. The United States was supposed to be the cornerstone, but it's somewhat crumbling, but it seems like every single other government other than the U.S. is in lockstep with this thing.
And this would allow, again, as Eva says, for not just the government to be able to track you further or give you scores and points and allow you or disallow you from doing certain things, but also implemented within other arms of government overreach, like a carbon tax, like mobility, like being able to travel even, depending on if you're good or bad.
Yeah. Let's go into China. And I had watched this actually a few years ago, but this was an excellent video. I grabbed it for today so we can know kind of where we're headed as a society if we allow digital ID to take root.
From Mark Nixon, digital ID was the first step the Chinese government took. It's the foundation of their social credit system.
A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right.
And just remember, right now, Donald Trump's in office. I happen to agree with Donald Trump, but if Biden's in office, to give him this kind of power with a digital ID, digital currency, carbon credits, so on and so forth, there's always going to be another party that you may disagree with. And right now, even if you agree with your government, there may come a day you disagree. So you need to fight now and stop digital ID.
To pay your debts, you have to blacklist those that don't.
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist, Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. He only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
Yu, who is among a tiny minority of people who have dared to criticize the system, which some are calling a digital dictatorship.
I worry because I think many people like me will be deprived of individual freedoms.
And again, it's not just whatever current government is right now. This determines and decides who is untrustworthy or who should be punished. But then what happens when a different government comes in, or with different ideals, with different things they want to do? Well, then it reverses. So this actually could be and should be an issue that unites the people of both, or whatever, how many sides are in each country, to say we don't want the government to have more power and control, regardless of who the government is.
Yeah, and liberal progressive governments around the world love this idea. Why? Because they don't have a non-moving moral foundation. Christianity and religion gives a non-moving moral foundation, so it kind of puts guardrails on government, so they can't just say one policy one day and the next thing another day. Like, oh, we're pro-war one day, then we're anti-war the next. We see liberals constantly changing, and a lot of their ideological beliefs are in direct contradiction, and they will be able to really implement this on the masses if they have some kind of social credit score system. A social credit score is completely reliant on a digital ID. The digital ID they're expecting to be the easiest one to get through, but if we can stop them now, then it's going to be a lot harder to put everything else they want to do on top of that.
And I do think it is a hard concept to grasp for a lot of people, because they're saying, oh, whatever, they already have my information, what does it matter? But when it actually does matter, it will be too late to try to continuously explain why it was a bad idea.
Yeah, and you also want to think about this. The United States is releasing a digital currency soon as well, but it's in a stable coin that may or may not provide more freedom. It's definitely not going to be as confining as the CBDC, where it's completely programmable. If you are able to access your bank account without a digital ID and traditional means, it's going to be a lot harder to track a lot of this stuff. It could completely undermine the international CBDC coming out of Europe if Donald Trump is able to implement this. So I don't know if we're going to be able to stop digital currency, but at least if we can maximize freedom through digital currency by having a traditional dollar, and if you want to adopt a stable coin, you can, and if you don't have to.
We do have another clip from RFK Jr., I believe.
Yeah, and this one is going more into what the World Economic Forum kind of wants to do. They're the first ones that talked about digital ID, digital currency, all these other things. So I just kind of wanted to show this on the broader scope of what could happen, and RFK is against a lot of this stuff. So
yes, he has pledged to stop the WEF.
This month, the corporate elites gathered in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum to plan the future for the rest of humanity. Their scheme, which they call the Great Reset, will drain what's ever left in your bank account and strip mine the beleaguered middle class of its remaining equity. During COVID, the WEF actually dictated the lockdowns that shifted $4 trillion upward to this new oligarchy of corporate billionaires. The bankers, the investment houses scooped up.
yeah, and they're currently trying to bring a digital currency into Vietnam. They're saying if you don't do facial scans and adopt their digital ID, then they are going to seize your money from your bank account. 86 million bank accounts have currently been seized in Vietnam. If you want that money back, you have to comply with their form of digital ID. So
Our homes, advertising that you will own nothing and be happy. They have a plan, but my plan is to stop them. I've spent a career as an attorney fighting these corporate robber barons in court. I know how they work. I'm familiar with their impulses to commoditize our lands, our waters, our homes, even our children, and our workers and our public health. I've proven that I can beat them again and again and again and derail their schemes. They spend billions in advertising and propaganda to make us feel powerless. But they've underestimated the power of we the people.
yeah, and what we say today on this channel is very important. We're originally from Canada. We had to flee Canada, move to Mexico City. There are laws in Canada now through hate speech and specialty groups where we can't even say the things that we would be saying in Mexico in Canada, and that is going to expand if this digital ID grabs root on a global basis. Every country where this is implemented, their citizens, there is going to be a chilling effect when it comes to speech.
And we've already seen a chilling effect through, exactly, hate speech. And you can't say this, you can't say that. We're going to arrest you for a tweet or for reposting something in the UK. And that will only make it easier for those who want to continue to do that. And it's the same question with the whole hate speech laws that we have discussed in both Canada and the UK, Australia, etc. Who decides what hate speech is? Who decides who an undesirable person is or someone problematic is? It depends on who's in power. So this actually does concern everybody.
Well, we've seen a lot of whistleblowers in the past, especially within the U.S., kind of go against the government, and they were considered terrorists or radicals, and people the government really wish they could keep silent. But over time, the government had to admit to their wrongs, and it was all because of these whistleblowers. There will not be whistleblowers in the future if we implement things like digital ID, digital carbon credit scores, and social credit scores, things of this nature. Okay, and that's it for digital ID, but
For now.
yeah.
And we do see this push being done through, once again, illegal migration, which is something a lot of citizens in a lot of countries want fixed, but this is not the way to fix it, and especially not in the US, which would trickle down to essentially the rest of Latin America, Canada, etc., if that becomes permissible, as we're seeing now in the UK and other European countries as well.
If you have any option not to adopt digital ID, do not adopt digital ID. If you're forced to adopt digital ID, use it as minimally as possible. So that's my recommendations to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. We do record segments, so this is a pause. If you want to send any, we're just recording that one, but if you want to send any questions, comments, we do read them all, so feel free to do so. And if you haven't subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. We are trying to reach 500 subscribers eventually. Yes, we're just about there, so thank you to everybody. And also, I forgot to say, we're filming this midday here in Mexico because tonight we will be on with Mikey Harlow on his channel, talking S is how he put it. But we are very honored and very happy to have been invited, so that's why we're doing this segment before.
Yeah,
this show before.
You've watched him for a long time. I actually haven't watched him even yet. So
you've seen him on Tim Pool.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he has been on Tim Pool before. You said you liked what he said. So.
Okay,
Yes. But yeah, thank you, Mikey. And we'll see you at 6 p.m. Mexico City time or 8 p.m. Eastern if you're in the States or Canada.
Let's move into the next story here, and it's going to be about Trump.
Yes, from Politico, White House to agencies prepare mass firing plans for a potential shutdown.
Yeah, and Trump has really arranged this thing somewhat spectacularly. The Democrats are threatening the shutdown. He's saying if you shut down the government, there is going to be mass firings. He's already showed with Doge that was his goal all along. So they will only be assisting him if they do a shutdown. If they don't do a shutdown, then they're going to look like they're capitulating to Donald Trump and helping his government move forward.
So yes, in memo, the Trump administration says the reduction in force plans would go beyond standard shutdown furloughs. The White House Budget Office is instructing federal agencies to prepare reduction in force plans for mass firings during a possible government shutdown, specifically targeting employees who work for programs that are not legally required to continue. The Office of Management and Budget moved to permanently reduce the government workforce if there is a shutdown, outlined in a memo shared with Politico ahead of release to agencies tonight, escalates the stakes of a potential shutdown next week.
Yeah, and there is a permanent deep state lodged not only in Washington, but the United States. They need to really trim off the fat here for all these government agencies so they can really look into who is working for them and what exactly are they doing. We've seen USAID, and there was just a ton, billions and billions of dollars of corruption going through USAID funding alternative NGOs, which they had no oversight on. So I'm all for these firings. If they want to hire people back, they always can hire people back and rebuild the government and have more oversight over these agencies.
The guidance comes as Republicans and Democrats in Capitol Hill are locked in an impasse over funding. With just days before the fiscal year ends September 30th, the House passed a stopgap spending measure to float federal operations through November 21st, but Democrats in the Senate have refused to advance it, demanding that Republicans come to the table to negotiate a bipartisan package that could include the extension of expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of the Democrats actually shutting down the government if it's going to result in Donald Trump axing a lot of federal employees and cutting the weight.
Yeah,
This is
trimming the fat.
This is what we wanted from Doge. Doge was able to accomplish it to a certain degree with NGOs and USAID, but now we can go into the rest of the federal government. This is a real opportunity. It's the first time one party has threatened us to shut down and the other party has responded by saying, go ahead, this is exactly what we want. It's going to be very interesting whichever way this does go.
Mm-hmm. And something also interesting that came out today, which is still to be fully confirmed. But apparently, congressional source now confirming nearly 200 and something FBI operatives embedded in the crowd on January 6. Here's one of them breaking into the Capitol and blaming it on an innocent bystander. J6 was a Fedsurrection setup, according to this person, just like people have said.
Well, and this is what we were suspecting, and everybody called us conspiracy theorists for the longest time. But now the video evidence and the identities of these federal agents are coming out. Let's take a look at this.
And I believe it's going to be a little bit loud, so.
Do not go in there.
And as you can see, that is supposed to be a federal agent right there in the black hat. He pulled off the glass. He realized nobody was filming him, so he dropped it and tried to pretend like this other guy is doing it. That's why he's getting so aggressive and violent. He wants to pretend like it wasn't him kind of aiding on these people to break into this federal building.
But also to continue the escalation. And you can hear people in the background saying, don't go in there.
Well, and let's not forget Ray Epps. Ray Epps has been suspected for a long time.
A radio journalist from Michigan was shooting video that day at the Capitol. What he captured were two most charitably called suspicious actors, but they are dressed in such a way that led him to believe that they were government agents. And one of them, after the windows had been broken by a protester, it was encouraging people to pull the rest of the glass out and go inside. Bobby Powell, who was the journalist that had shot it, and he has his camera rolling, he told him that would be illegal and that wouldn't be a good idea. He warned people off not to go into that window. And then he turned his camera around and he caught this agent or suspicious actor pulling a large pane of glass out. It's tempered glass. It kind of folds into itself, crunch onto the ground. When he realized he was being filmed, he quickly dropped it. It seems apparent on the video that he did not want to be seen doing what he just did. So he pulled in a protester and started blaming him. So what are you doing breaking that window? The poor fellow that was being accused didn't know what was going on. And then he gave him a couple of really good shoves and cocked his arm like he was going to punch him. You know, we don't know. His facial image is not on any of the Sedition Hunters sites or the FBI's most wanted site, but he clearly was committing criminal damage to property, and he has not been charged. So it, you know, again, it raises a question of why.
Also, the individual trying to, again, opening the window up is even encouraging people to enter, I believe, as well.
Yes.
What's he saying?
Well, he said, why don't y'all open the rest of it up?
This is the same thing that Ray Epps did. And at the time, Nick Fuentes did some suspicious things, and that's why the hoopla of him being a federal agent as well came up. Now, I don't necessarily believe that, but it did look suspicious, some of his actions at January 6th.
And with this and with the left and how we're seeing them respond to a lot of the things that have been happening just in the recent few weeks, specifically Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, and then what happened at the ABC affiliate that got shot up, and then what happened at the ICE facility in Dallas, Texas this week. A lot of them are starting to say, oh, we can't trust what the FBI is saying. We can't trust what the government is saying. We can't trust what Trump is saying. We're seeing pregnant women downing Tylenol just to go against Trump. So it will be interesting to see their reaction to this kind of information coming out, and maybe even further now that the Trump administration is in and can start pulling a lot more files and a lot more investigation that was maybe blocked by the previous administration.
Well, and that's the thing about the left. They were all on board for the last decade of the government and the institutions must be trusted. And that was the through line. Now their entire movement saying they can't be trusted. Not one of them can be trusted because Trump is in power. Mm-hmm. You'll see conservatives like, oh, I'm a big Trump supporter, but I'll call Trump out on the Epstein files, on a lot of other incidents like the jibby jab things that I don't agree with them, and conservatives in general don't agree with the administration on everything. Even with this Charlie Kirk thing, even though I do think it is what it appears to be, a lot of conservatives don't, so they question and challenge everything, and this is kind of what you want. You don't want people to follow blindly and ideologically behind a government. You want them asking questions, even if the government is telling the truth.
But the problem is now, in a way, the left has given itself plausible deniability and being able to say, well, we don't actually trust this, believe this, because it's coming from the current administration. But from the Dallas Express via Yahoo, FBI embedded 275 plainclothes agents in January 6. Crowds blaze reports as House panel probes informant's roles.
And all the January 6 videos I had seen when a suspicious figure was saying this way, and they were directing the crowd which way to go. Specifically, I'm talking about Ray Epps and some other people like the video we just watched. Those people were never arrested, even when they were identified, which makes it very, very suspicious, especially when we know there's now 275 agents in the crowd. And there were...
From one report, it's not fully known.
Well, and there were explosive devices planted all around the Capitol. Luckily, those didn't go off, but I think this was supposed to be something much more, so they could start cases and keep these people in prison and really use this going towards the election when it was against Trump and Kamala, but it didn't work out for them so well.
And actually today, Tim Pool had an interesting point when he did this story and pointed out that AOC, seemingly from the story she told a month later, where she said that whole video where she came out saying, yeah, I heard him say, where is she? Where is she? And hiding in the bathroom. The fact that she was hiding in the bathroom an hour earlier may point to, according to Tim Pool, the fact that there was some sort of previous warning or previous knowledge of this happening, if in her story they hadn't even entered the Capitol yet, and yet she's saying she thought the protesters were coming to get her. So,
Okay.
do you want me to read a little bit of it?
You can read a little bit, yeah.
Representative Barry Loudermilk, chairman of the House January 6 Select Subcommittee, said this week his panel is focused on the number and role of paid informants present during the January 6, 2021 demonstrations and whether intelligence from those sources was properly shared with law enforcement. One thing that we have learned, and this came on the tail end of the Biden administration when their Department of Justice admitted they had more than 24 paid informants embedded in the crowd. He said, with that many paid informants being in the crowd, we want to know how many were in the crowd, how many were in the building, but I also want to know, were they paid to inform or instigate? And then the blaze with this report on September 25th, citing a senior congressional source, the FBI told Congress it had 275 plainclothes agents in January 6. They haven't been able to independently confirm the figure. Outlet wrote, depending on how one reads undercover agents versus plainclothes agents, both statements could be true, did not publicly identify the source.
Okay, well, let's kind of move on here. What do we got next?
Academic studies. Something we kind of knew, but more stuff.
Yeah, and I originally had seen this X. It was interesting to me, so I grabbed the article. I'm not sure if it's going to be the exact same statistics, but it's generally the same idea here.
So from Peter St. Ong, up to 90% of published academic studies are false. They cannot be replicated. Usually in science, you want something that is replicable to actually determine if what you found was true, if it happens again, or you can make it happen. Well, not make it, but if you can find it again, essentially.
Well, and I believe this 90% figure that he's giving, because it often comes up in debate, this is with the social sciences specifically. So there is a non-replicable theory in the social sciences. That's why that data is very, very weak when it's brought up in debates.
So let's see quickly what he says, I guess, and then go into the article or the finding.
Nearly every academic study is garbage, a waste, sometimes a fraud of taxpayer money that yields a tsunami of misinformation that kills thousands of Americans. The NIH wants to fix it. Recently, NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya announced a new journal he hopes will transform our corrupt and increasingly dangerous scientific establishment. The core of the problem is something called the replication crisis, where it turns out the majority of even top studies cannot, in fact, be replicated. In science, if you cannot replicate a result, it is not real. This is a problem given millions of Americans take drugs or get life-changing medical treatments with potentially harmful side effects based on...
And that's why it's so important in this emotional political day and age that we're in. One side will say trust the science based on emotional facts, not on scientific data. We're currently seeing that with this Tylenol scandal. There is a ton of data supporting that Tylenol can lead to autism or other illnesses in an unborn child from a pregnant mother. And we're seeing liberals just take Tylenol in mass because Orange Man bad.
On these fake studies. To give a flavor, several years ago, German pharmaceutical giant Bayer was looking to develop cancer drugs. But before they started, they redid major oncology studies to make sure the data was sound. Out of the 67 top studies they tried to replicate, just 14, 21%, could be reproduced. This is one of the biggest pharma companies in the entire world. A similar effort by pharmaceutical giant Amgen found just 11% of studies could be replicated. Note, this is studies dealing with cells. We can only imagine studies dealing with people, who are, of course, much more complex than cells. So what percent of psychology, sociology, gender swapping, even economics is false? Perhaps 90%, it could be 99%. So why is it so bad? Some of it is literally fake numbers or statistical manipulation, cherry picking or so-called p-hacking. A lot of it is so-called publication bias, where papers that don't find the correct answer are discarded, as in your pharma grants, government grants, or left-wing peers don't.
And this is what they do with climate change. That's why they say 99% of climate scientists know they're disqualifying and discrediting other scientists that don't agree with their narrative. And it's currently falling apart. If they're able to fix science and the data behind the science, you're going to see a much more diverse set of opinions, especially when it comes to climate.
Like them, while any findings that do attract funding or professional clout get blasted out even if they are statistical mirages. Now, given government grants make up most academic funding, $109 billion last year, this is a big reason why academia is so comically left. As Nobel economist James Buchanan famously put it, professors are, quote, camp-following whores who will say whatever you pay them to say. So to fix this, the NIH is proposing to fund independent studies that simply retest key findings, what Bayer and Amgen did. This should be very fun when they run foundational left-wing studies through the meat grinder, from mutilating children to global warming to the minimum wage or inflation and central banking. Grab the popcorn.
And the whole funding of studies, and it is something a lot of scientists that were kind of ousted during the terrible years of 2020, like Brett Weinstein, his wife Heather Heying, and Eric Weinstein as well, a lot of them, and Jay Bhattacharya himself, came out to say that a lot of the studies that are being cited are because, and they're only being able to be done because of the funding that they can receive if they want to test a specific premise that maybe won't actually advance science or might even contradict things that have been known for a while.
Well, they need to reestablish trust in these institutions like the NHS. That being said, the best way to do it is just try to replicate your own studies. Now, I can see what the left is already going to say. Oh, they're funding to disprove these studies. Well, they're not trying to disprove them. They're just trying to replicate them. If they cannot be replicated, that means the study itself is disproved and was artificially kind of manipulated in one way or another. So this is a perfect way to reinstall trust in an institution that after the jibby jab era, nobody really trusts.
And this is from all the way back in 2021 from UC San Diego, and it says a new replication crisis research that is less likely to be true is cited more. Papers that could not be replicated are cited 153 times more because their findings are interesting, according to a new UC San Diego study. We should see if they couldn't even replicate that one. Papers in leading psychology, economic, and science journals that fail to replicate and therefore are less likely to be true are often the most cited papers in academic research.
Yeah, in one moment, famously, somebody you actually really like, James Lindsay, was...
I don't really like him.
Well, he was submitting papers to these journals that were supposed to be satire, and they actually published them because it was in their bubble of thinking, which they wanted to be true.
And that was a while ago. That was back in 2017 or 16. Published in Science Advances, the paper explores the ongoing replication crisis in which researchers have discovered that many findings in the fields of social sciences and medicine don't hold up when other researchers try to repeat the experiments. The paper reveals that findings from studies that cannot be verified when the experiments are repeated have a bigger influence over time. Their unreliable research tends to be cited as if the results were true long after the publication failed to replicate.
And courts and professors are using these studies that are complete fraud to brainwash a generation of children. And this is why we are creating a generation that is literally living in a left-wing bubble.
And also, I mean, not just the left-wing bubble, but everything that is going on with the mutilation of children is what I will call it, transitioning children when they're minors. A lot of those that research, even their whole W path, there was a huge expose done by Michael Schellenberger, W path, which was the institution for furthering the science and the fact that transgender healthcare is healthcare, etc. Was found where they found that all the people that had, PhDs or called themselves doctors within the W path organism were actually not even medical doctors, but they were giving out medical advice to actual medical institutions, from Johns Hopkins to Mount Sinai to a bunch of other ones that were treating children with gender affirming care, which is just mutilation under no scientific basis. But they were listening to this whole institution called WPath, which again has already been exposed.
Okay, and let's go into the next thing. And this is, well, it involves Trump again. So let's just go right into the story.
Okay, from Samantha Smith, the left is blasting Trump for saying that Sharia law is operating in Britain. Well, he's right, and Labour supports it. There are 85 Sharia courts operating in Britain today. The Justice Secretary says they should be tolerated and refuses to denounce Sharia law. Newsflash, 6-year-old girls shouldn't be sold off to men old enough to be their grandfathers. Women shouldn't be banned from speaking, showing their faces, or going to school.
Well, in one moment, they're using this Sharia courts to supersede the justice system within the UK, where certain communities are going to the Sharia courts rather than allowing traditional British law to supersede everything. And in certain communities, they do have the power of the vote, where they're actually voting in these kind of laws.
Babies shouldn't be born with severe congenital defects from cousin marriage. Sharia law has no place in civilized society, according to this person. There is only one legal system here, and that is English common law. The fact that our own government, refuses to uphold and defend British sovereignty on our own soil is appalling. The fact that they are allowing women, girls, and children to be subjected to abusive dictation of Sharia law is reprehensible. This is Britain, not the Middle East.
And we've had decades of rape gangs in the UK, and it's just, they wanted to turn a blind eye to it. So,
and the fact that they want us to sit down and shut up about it is morally bankrupt. Followers of Sharia law don't want to coexist with other populations.
Okay, maybe let's go into the article just so we can have more than just a tweet here.
Yes. Well, there was a video there, but
there was. Go back to the video. We'll play the video and then we'll go into the article.
And it is interesting that for a lot of liberals or people, or even the pro-Palestine people, or people that want to support more Muslim immigration into countries, it goes, not just Sharia law, but a lot of the laws and practices from those cultures go completely against the whole liberal ethos and the whole feminist movement and a lot of other things, the LGBTQ movement that they allegedly also want to espouse and further. It's in direct contradiction. Again, there is no moral foundation that tells them where their values and morals lie, so they just support things that have nothing or completely against each other.
Does the new Secretary of State for Justice recognise Sharia law and Sharia courts in the United Kingdom? Yes or no?
Sharia law forms no part of the law of England and Wales, but in common with Christian, Jewish and other courts of faith where people choose to put themselves before those councils, that's part of the religious tolerance that is an important British value.
And this is a completely untrue statement, and let's go into the article.
You talk for a bit because I couldn't actually grab the. It's not letting me read it, so
okay.
You talk.
You may have trouble finding another one there. Let's just go to the next story if you want.
No, I'm pulling it up. Just keep talking.
Okay.
It might take 2 seconds.
I wasn't prepared, so I had
just talk about Sharia law. What do you think?
Let's just talk about Donald Trump is catching a lot of heat when he did give this speech, and people in the UK, especially politicians, are calling him liars. When he went in front of the UN, a lot of the things that he said really upset the global New World Order community. And I think he's going to be proven right in the end. You'll see the West move in lockstep with one another, going right off a cliff. Now, I really like what Trump's doing because it's something different than all these other countries are doing. All these countries are marching into the darkness. They're jumping off a bridge because everybody else is jumping off of it. Even if Donald Trump's plan doesn't succeed, at least he's doing something different than just jumping directly off of the bridge.
Now I found it. From the Telegraph, shadow system of Sharia courts challenges British justice. Conservatives call for a regulation to protect vulnerable women. Funny that they always say conservatives are against women and are trying to get women, blah, blah, blah. Well, the liberals are apparently actually enforcing stuff to do so. A job posting for a Sharia law administrator on the Department for Work and Pensions Careers Board was like a red flag to a bull for Nigel Farage. To the Reform UK leader, the advert of £23,500 a year job in the suburb of Didsbury, Manchester, showed our country and its values are being destroyed. The listing itself said any potential candidates should have previous experience in Sharia law related fields and or Sharia courts in Muslim countries alongside expertise in British law. But Farage was not the only politician outraged. Senior Tories also lined up to criticize the posting, which briefly emerged in July before being deleted. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, said at the time, as I've said before, Sharia courts should be banned. The only laws are the laws of England, Wales, and Scotland, and Northern Ireland. It's as simple as that. Ultimately, the job posting turnaround.
This is not just happening in the UK, it's happening in the US as well. We do have a clip from Governor Greg Abbott. Let's go into that because they were trying to build a Muslim-only city.
Hold on.
Yeah. I'm glad he's putting a stop to this. I had known about this for a couple of years now. They were buying up mass lands and really using the court system to implement Sharia law within Texas.
And also, we just watched another clip where they wanted to rename a city street, I believe, in Minnesota. And the person actually got shouted down by one of the representatives there saying, you have no place here.
Yeah, the Christians have no place in their community was directly what the mayor said because the mayor of that particular community was Muslim.
But from Wall Street Apes, Muslims react to Governor Greg Abbott signing HB 4211, the ban on Sharia law in Texas. They call the idea of Sharia law requiring everyone to wear burqas and so forth and so on is all propaganda.
The ban on Sharia law in Texas is now strengthened.
The ceremonial signing met with cheers in McKinney. Governor Abbott, flanked by lawmakers who pushed through HB 4211 in response, they say, to Epic City, a Muslim-centric community planned on the edge of Collin County, accused of housing discrimination.
This law prevents them from creating no-go zones. It prevents them from selling or renting land only to people who follow Islam.
Collin County State Rep Candy No.
Yeah, and they're trying to have this happen in Texas, of all places. Imagine all the places it's going on and nothing's being said about it.
And we've also seen there are no-go zones in the UK and what happens also when people go into them that are not supposed to be there.
And we have showed maps of mosques popping up all over. Many churches are being bought out by mosques. Specifically in Texas, there are thousands of them popping up. It's almost strange, and it is not organic how many mosques are popping up in the state of Texas.
As happened in the UK as well.
Co-authored the bill, citing Epic City's own words.
They said, we will limit sales to only persons we believe will contribute to the overall makeup of our community.
All lies, argues Epic City's attorney, Dan Cogdell.
I mean, simply put, Governor Abbott couldn't find the truth with respect to Epic with a CNI dog, a search warrant, and a citing.
It requires disputes to be resolved by Texas law and Texas courts, not Sharia law.
There's no Sharia compounds, as he would call it.
And there are plenty of videos online about this specific issue. We have covered it in the past. There are Muslims that were supposed to be running the community, and the community leaders talking about how great it was, trying to get Muslims to buy land and property there so they can implement a Muslim-only community.
He doesn't even know what Sharia is.
The DFW Council on American Islamic Relations also calling out the rhetoric as hurtful and dangerous.
Sharia law would generally be defined as requiring people to comply with either the rules of Sharia, the rules of Islam, the rules of a local mosque.
What are you guys hearing?
But I would ask you specifically, because we did do another story where they did want to build a community that was just white Christians, and you said that you thought that that would be okay. So why would this be any different in a way?
Because they're trying
I'm against both of them.
Because they're trying to supersede the law. They're not just trying to build a Muslim community. They're trying to implement that by law, excluding anybody else from even moving into that community.
What would you think? Because we know, coming from Canada, there's First Nations courts kind of as well, or they have their own justice system within First Nations lands.
I think it's the same thing that's going on in Canada. Canada is just a lot further progressed, and instead of Islam, it's First Nations laws that are superseding the Canadian courts. Now, Christian nationalism has the same idea, but they wanted to do it through the ballot box. So it's going to be interesting how that turns out as well.
But would you be okay with if it was just the communities that are separating or alienating people and not letting them come in?
If it's just communities coming together, they can't keep other people out from moving in, and they have to allow American law or state law to be the law of the land. They're not doing that. They're trying to do what they did in Britain and supersede UK law, and they want to do that in Texas as well as many other places around the world. Like you said, they're doing it in Canada, maybe not with Islam, but they're doing it with First Nations.
You had a clip of a liberal woman, but I don't know what that's about. Do you want to explain it?
Why don't you? I can't remember what it was because I grabbed so many clips. Why don't you just
This one
play it?
says, breaking, liberal women continue to lose their minds over Tylenol. Now they're going to take it further, calling for the Trump administration to take their right to work away.
Liberal women are becoming conservative. Let's take a look here. They ran away. They ran out so far away from Donald Trump. They ran in, so it came right back to him.
If you guys want to take away abortion rights, if you want to tell us that we can't take painkillers while pregnant because it causes autism, if you want to take all this shit away, take away my right to work. Take away my fucking right to have a fucking job.
Sorry.
I don't want to work. I don't want to work.
She doesn't have to. She can get married and have kids and have a husband that has a good enough income that supports both of them.
Government to be her husband.
Because again, it's always the government they look up to. It always has to be the government that makes decisions for them instead of them being women and actually independent and decide what they want to do. If you don't like working, then find a different lifestyle.
And this is traditionally a conservative talking point. I don't want to work. I take my job. Don't let me work.
Okay?
Why does she yell?
I don't care about women's suffrage, frankly, after everything else. Okay, but I don't mean it like that. You guys get what I'm saying. If you're gonna take away anything, take away my right to work. I will gladly sit at home and make a fucking sandwich if it means I don't have to go outside in this public hellhole every single fucking day where everyone's a psycho MAGA.
She doesn't have to go outside. And she probably, the only kind of husband she could actually find that would be useful enough to sustain her at home is somebody that's probably conservative and Christian and has values that align with having a woman at home and doing everything you can to support that woman so she doesn't have to work.
The women's suffrage movement originally did not want to have the right to work, and women are now realizing that once again.
I can't take this anymore. You're telling me that pregnant women can't take over-the-counter painkillers?
No, they didn't say that. They suggested as a precaution that they're going to put on the warning label of the damn thing that there's been studies made and found that there may be a
They're not going to put it on. It's already on. It's literally already on there.
But they said they're changing the bottle labeling, the black label. Do you want to finish watching her screaming?
We went this far, so let's watch the crazy woman.
It doesn't, because it's wrong. You're wrong.
If you guys want to take...
Why do they yell so much as well?
Enough with the shrieking banshee.
But why do they think it's so necessary to yell and be so unstable and film themselves doing
because
that?
People like us play those clips.
People are insane. And again, that was all essentially misinformation that she was given. If she read the study from Harvard, the Harvard Public School of Public Health that we read yesterday, that's where the information was coming from. Also from Tylenol themselves and from studies that Tylenol themselves had done that said that pregnant women shouldn't take Tylenol while pregnant because there were findings that were troubling.
Okay, let's blow through the next 3 articles. We're just going to read the headlines and give our thoughts and opinions.
So first one from Variety, Los Angeles Film School. Oh, I want to know which one. Accused by former execs of massive scam involving fake jobs for graduates.
Yeah, and this isn't just only film school. This is the promises that are being made to college and university students all over the country. They're given guaranteed loans, put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, expecting to get a job, and there is no job at the end of that rainbow very often. It's better to work in a field first, have a guarantee that you're going to move up within that company if you go to school part-time.
But with us coming from the film industry, and this was a point that we would always give people that would ask us, oh, well, how do I get into the film industry? Should I go to film school? I actually thought I wanted to go to film school for the longest time until you actually get into it doing a random job and you realize that everything in everything in the film industry, at least for now, you kind of escalate, like get yourself to go higher and higher through work and through learning and through mostly apprenticeships, kind of.
And we're also seeing the film unions currently being broken down. Hollywood was moving away from the film unions, especially because we have the big tech companies coming in to make movie studios, and that's kind of like their side business. They have access to plenty of employees, and they don't see it as a good business decision to work with unions. So I see film unions that are going to be dying in the future.
But in Vancouver, we also have we used to live in Vancouver, the Vancouver Film School, and kids from there wouldn't really get any jobs, even though they were promised them, only as PAs. Yeah. And that's pretty hard to move past once
if you wanted to leapfrog in the industry, especially in Vancouver, you would just go work non-union films, get the experience, and then go work union films after. That way you could bypass being a PA very often.
And with Vancouver Film School, the only people that actually got jobs were the ones that were either designing video games or doing special and visual effects, because they actually did need to go to school.
And they were getting severely underpaid, and a lot of those jobs went over to China, so only the finishing work would actually be done in the Vancouver studios.
Oh, so it is actually. So 2 former executives at the Los Angeles Film School alleged in a lawsuit that the school has operated a massive student loan scam for years that involves arranging for thousands of fake job placements for its graduates. The executives also claim that the school, located on Sunset Boulevard, lied to the Department of Education during a 2017 audit in an effort to cover up the fraud.
Yeah, and the film industry is now moving out of Hollywood. It's going worldwide, and it's going America-wide as well. So you're seeing a lot of films being made in a lot of other places. I will say this. A lot of films used to be made in LA and Vancouver was much easier to break in because it was a smaller population. And there was more things being filmed there because most TV stuff was filmed in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do we got next?
Speaking of TV,
Baywatch.
From Variety as well, Baywatch reboot ordered at Fox for 26-27 season.
Yeah,
2026.
if they do this right, this is a good indication that masculinity is coming back. So I hope that they do this right and don't put shame on men for wanting to watch shows like this.
Depends on how, if they make it all inclusive and women focused. And
the culture's changing too much. If this series wants to be successful, it's going to have to be very much more geared towards men.
Well, similar to how it used to be.
Yeah.
Baywatch is back. Fox has officially given a straight-to-order series for a reboot of the legendary Lifeguard series to air during the 26-27 broadcast season. Fox Entertainment and Fremantle are co-producing the reboot, which has been given a 12-episode order. Matt Nix will serve as showrunner and executive producer, and a bunch of other people.
This is a definite direction where Hollywood is going. We've lived through the last year, which was kind of the transition period going away from woke Hollywood. It takes a lot of time to get those scripts rewritten or get them out, and you're still seeing wokeness sprinkled in here or there, but they're definitely trying to move away in the writing and editing from the stuff they already filmed. 26-27 is going to be all original, all kick-ass content.
Hopefully.
At least that's my prediction.
Well, we did predict, what was it, last year? Almost the same time last year, that we would probably start seeing only the change in the shift in culture in Hollywood movies and in TV series around 2026. middle of 2026, because again, production times are very different to normal times.
Yeah.
So if they did want to have to redo a whole script or remove things, that takes a long time as well. And create new original ones and to get them approved would also take a long time.
Yeah, and if you want to move away from woke, you're probably going to go in the opposite direction, which is 80s action, war films, Rambo, Commando, First Blood, a lot of these style type movies. Baywatch is an indication of that. It may not be pure action, but it has a lot of sexuality inputted into it, which Hollywood has really been moving away from. Fat, ugly people seem to be casting directors' dream over the last couple of years.
Speaking of hopefully not fat, ugly people, Germany hopes to attract tens of thousands more military recruits as NATO strengthens its defenses.
Yeah, and they definitely have an economic collapse coming in Germany, and if the only person hiring is the government, potentially, but they're also signaling that they are going to amplify this war with Russia, and they want to push into a new world war. So, I mean, ideologically, the people that would typically go into the military just don't agree with the government. So unless you put them in a really stressed financial situation, I don't see people freely volunteering for these types of military. Now, the American military is something different. You have somebody like Trump in there, so it attracts a certain kind of soldier. That being said, if you are signing up for the U.S. military, I would caution to sign a short-term contract in case the Democrat gets back into office.
And with the U.S. military, we did see almost as soon as Trump came in, the numbers, the recruitment numbers go way up than what they had been for the past few years.
Yeah, and you have to be very cautious because governments can shift on a dime. In 2028, the next election, they could send American soldiers off into a war that nobody really agrees with. And if you were previously signed up, say you got out of the military in 2027, but a new Democrat comes in 2028, they can recall you up to 8 years. That's part of the contract that you sign. So be very cautious before you do join the military, especially with a lot of the things on the horizon with the EU trying to implement a new war with Russia.
Speaking of the Department of War, though, from Marinov Naufal, I can never say his name.
I watch him on YouTube. I really don't like him, but he has really good guests, and he does do good X's.
Just say you don't like it.
Well, I know
mean.
he's somewhat annoying, but
Oh, well, sorry. I haven't had the pleasure of watching you. Breaking Pentagon orders secret emergency meeting. Hundreds of U.S. generals and admirals from across the globe have been told to rush to Virginia next week without
he's
being...
not Mexican, by the way.
Who?
Mario Naufal.
Yeah, that's not a Mexican last name. It's not even a Latin last. I don't know what kind of last name it is.
I think he's in the Middle East somewhere because behind him is one of the big Middle Eastern cities.
Again, I don't know who he is.
Okay, let's keep going.
Have been told to rush to Virginia next week without being told why. Even those overseeing troops in conflict zones are being pulled away from their commands. The move has left top officers baffled and worried, with some openly questioning the risk of yanking so many leaders off duty at the same time. All of it is weird, one official said. War Secretary, I do like that they changed the name. War Secretary Pete Hegseth has recently slashed top brass, fired senior commanders, and even moved to rebrand the Pentagon as the Department of War. Now he's summoning nearly 800 of America's most powerful military leaders into one room, and nobody knows what's coming.
And let's remember the story we did just a couple of days ago. They had new social media and protocol leaks. If you talk to any kind of media, you have to get pre-approval now, where before you didn't, and nothing has been leaked here. People are literally, they don't have a clue what's going to go on in this meeting. I hope it's a restructuring of the military and they're not directing the start of some kind of new war.
That, or I mean, there also has been rumors, and again, this is just rumors and speculation, that they have found coordination amongst different groups, not just the far left, but other kinds of different groups, like the ones we talked about before, of some sort of coordinated attack within, I think it was like specifically medical care centers, where within communities or cities that only have one, having people in bed within those medical centers and pretend to be either doctors or law enforcement, and then create chaos, and then as people come in, do a secondary attack then. Okay, that is just something speculative.
I think it's a restructuring of the military. He wants to focus on the new American pole, just like it looked like behind the scenes, China and the U.S. came to an agreement where China would pull out of South America. We talked a lot about that over the last few weeks. He may be pulling troops away from...
I mean, we're still on.
Oh, we're still on?
Yes.
Okay, let me fix this.
But I can't see. Oh, no, we're not on. Are we on?
I don't know. It might.
Oh, maybe they want us to shut up.
There we go. Does it say we're still on air?
I mean, it does, but hold on. No. Are we or are we not?
Oh, there it went black. Let's see if
It did go black. Okay, hold on, people.
Give us 1 minute. Our power just went out. We're hoping that we're still connected.
Maybe I was right and they want us to shut up about it.
Not sure.
Yeah, we are on.
Okay,
Yes.
it's black, but we're still on air.
Yes.
Oh, did it go out again?
No.
Okay, go back to the camera. We're still
There we go.
What
happened
I was
to
gonna
my
say
light?
about this may be a restructuring of where they're going to deploy troops and want to have their influence. They may want to secure the U.S. territory, focus on Canada, the United States, Mexico, Central and South America. I hope that's the case because I think that's a winning strategy.
That was creepy, though. I started talking about potential disturbances and the light went out.
Okay,
Do you want to
let's
go
into
fix my camera? Because it went dark.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's start reading the article.
Okay, hold on then. Oh, there it fixed. Yes. War Secretary's emergency meeting, a mystery to hundreds of top officers ordered to attend. So remember what I said, and let's keep in mind if it happens eventually. Luckily, this will be recorded. Nobody seems to have any concrete info on what Hexet's surprise upcoming meeting of flag officers in Virginia is all about.
Oh, let's go into a little bit of conspiracy, and I don't think this is the case, but it may very well be. 3 AI Atlas is on the way to the solar system with 2 big other comets.
My conspiracy makes a bit more sense than that.
That maybe extraterrestrial visitors may or may not be. So if
Also, you think the moon is full of cheese and some sort of...
No, I didn't think cheese. It's hollow and it's monitoring
full of
base
cheese.
for the Earth.
Exactly.
But-
See, this is why, I mean, I know you do it mostly in jest, but this
I
is
don't
why...
put it in jest.
Yes, you
the
do.
moon is hollow and they're monitoring us from the dark side of the moon.
With cheese.
And I also think there's inner Earth is a real possibility.
Well, I hope we can...
think if there is extraterrestrial, they're going
There
to
is no extra...
coming from another galaxy, but they're probably living in the inside of the Earth.
I think my theory of maybe some attack coming might be... But I was going to ask you, because I mean, you follow Ukraine and a lot of other war gaming, etc. Would it actually become a threat for so many officers to be pulled away from where they are?
That was my first thought. But I'm sure they're going to do it at a very secure location like the Pentagon. I'm sure they're going to.
Yeah, they said to go to the Pentagon.
I'm sure they're going to be on very high alert. Donald Trump has said in the last few weeks that he wants to cut down 20% of the 4-star generals. So he may be looking to cut fat within the military. We know what happened during the Biden administration. They went after non-binary Gen X people, and that was their recruitment videos.
Flabby people.
There may be a lot of people they don't want in the military right now. They want to get rid of them. They may be infiltrated by immigrants as well from China and other places.
But I actually meant if you think it's going to be a security issue for the places they're abandoning, because some of them are in conflict zones, some of them are...
leadership. There's
yes.
Sub-leadership there, and all the personnel is still there, so no.
And Rafa says, hello. Hello,
Oh,
Rafa.
good to see you.
And Rafa, we just had a technical issue. Rafa, we just went dark. We didn't go black. We just went dark. Apparently, somebody doesn't want to talk about it, or it's the Internet del Bienestar, as we call it in my Spanish streams. There's bad internet in Mexico. But Rafa says, didn't expect you at this time. And I will say once again, we are filming at this time or streaming at this time, because today at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mexico City time, we will be on with Mikey Harlow. We have the link on our X, but I'll leave it on the comments or somewhere here as well. That's why we're starting early today.
Yeah, and you may do your show after you're done with Mikey's.
Yes, so my show might be around 9 or 10 p.m. Mexico City time in Spanish. Yes, we'll see. But thank you for being here, Rafa.
Okay, let's go into the Dallas shooter, and I believe he's starting to leave. He left some notes as well as inscriptions on the bullet. So this is definitely a left-wing shooter. We did a story on this, and we had some comments saying, no, this is the right. It obviously isn't the right at this point.
Yes, and we obviously are being, found or having some sort of interesting people coming into our streams. Not you, Rafa, you're great. From The Guardian, Dallas shooting suspect left anti-ICE notes but wasn't part of any specific group, officials say. I mean, at least the group that doesn't like ICE, that's a group all by itself. The Texas authorities say the shooting at an ICE detention center came after a high degree of planning. So if he was planning, where did he get the idea from? Authorities said on Thursday that the words the words of the suspect in the shooting on Wednesday at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Texas were definitely anti-ICE, but said that they did not find any evidence that the suspect was a member of any specific group or entity, nor did he mention any specific government agency other than ICE. Again, this just could be from stuff he sees online, from stuff he sees Governor Newsom say, and that kind of does become a group once people start to organize and coordinate, and we see all these other attacks at ICE facilities. So I wouldn't, maybe he's not now, but maybe he would have been, or maybe he was acting also on behalf of what he was seeing happening.
Well, and the left was claiming they were nonviolent, but now we're seeing that these ICE protests, and they're saying shoot the officers, kill the officers, so on and so forth. So this is becoming a rallying cry at these protests at ICE facilities. So they are literally calling for violence on the ground. You see their leadership calling to unmask these people so they can properly coordinate their acts of violence against ICE agents. I was also watching a left-wing commentator, which I very often do, so I know their talking points. And they're saying, well, this is just an indication that it's time for national divorce. We can't live with these racists anymore. They're literally saying it, and these are coming from moderate leftists at this point. They know they lost the plot.
And their minds.
They're not even having to wait for the midterms because I think they feel it slipping through their fingers. So they need violence, and they need a violent reaction from the right, because if it's only one side, Trump's going to be able to unleash ICE and the military and police force against violent protesters or people calling for violence.
So at a news conference on Thursday afternoon, Texas authorities provided more details on the shooting investigation, describing messages and notes they found at the suspect's residence. The shooting, described by the FBI as coming after a high degree of planning, occurred early on Wednesday at a facility in Texas with a spray of bullets fired from a rooftop, hitting a building at an ICE transportation van, ending one ICE detainee who was inside the vehicle and badly injuring two others, because apparently, again, he went like this and with no specific, he just wanted to cause violence. Nancy Larson, acting U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, said on Thursday the authorities found a collection of notes at the suspect's residence, with one of the notes allegedly stating, "Yes, it was me." Notably, these loose notes include a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility, Larson said. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. Larson said the suspect wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility, and said that it seems he did not intend to end the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. He also hoped his actions would give ICE agents real terror of being ended, and he did this to induce constant stress in their lives. Among his papers, Larson said that he also found a handwritten note in which the suspect expressed his hatred for the federal government. And again, when this started happening, all the left, and still they are still saying this. I saw some idiot on CNN trying to point this out and say that, oh, but it was the detainees that got ended. So of course he was right wing, because all right wings are and want to end the No, it was clearly directed towards ICE, and now with the finding of what he actually wrote. But they won't, again, they don't trust this FBI, they don't trust this administration. Now they don't trust the institutions. They trusted, a year ago. So I think the rhetoric will continue to escalate in the changing of stories and the changing of framing a narrative, both within the mainstream media, within the Democrat politicians, but also the left aligned influencers and etc. And I'm not saying far left, because it's very clear now that it is not just the far left, it is the entire left.
Yeah, and it's crazy when Biden was in office, how much the left did trust the government and followed them with every single policy. Because even when I look at the UK and the EU, whether you're left or right wing, the citizens themselves are completely separated from the government. The US, even under the Trump administration, they're able to get a lot more support from the citizens, whether it's right or left, whoever it happens to be in power.
Mm-hmm. But now we do have to go to RUMBLE, which is where we usually finish all our streams, because there are some stories we cannot fully talk about here on YouTube. And even though YouTube said that they're not going to be canceling or censoring people anymore for political opinions or talking about political news and stuff, we still don't want to risk it. And it is a good thing to have RUMBLE having people go there in case something similar happens as happened before. We'll see you over there. Don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers, and it would help us a lot if you did. It's free as well. We'll see you over at RUMBLE in a few seconds.
I'm just logging in there.
I do have to do like a fall screen for when we go to Rumble, just to let people know that we
Once
went.
we get to the new studio,